Why does doing nothing feel like a crime? Why silence feel like failure and exhaustion feels like proof you're alive? You call it ambition, but what if it's worship? A religion built around pressure where the busier you are, the more worthy you feel, where rest is blasphemy. 150 years ago, Nietzsche warned us about this. He called it the most dangerous lie civilization ever told. Listen, the hum of deadlines, the glow of screens, the 9 to 5, the heartbeat that won't slow down. Meanwhile, outside, life keeps moving. And you're stuck in the noise, mistaking motion for meaning. You think this noise is life, but it's the sound of you forgetting how to live. Once you realize that everything changes, you come to know why taking life seriously is the worst thing you can do. That for your whole life you've mistaken tension for significance. You think being constantly burdened means you're living meaningfully, that anxiety is a badge of purpose. But tell me, when was the last time you felt alive without a reason? If purpose makes you miserable, is it still purpose? Or just another cage disguised as meaning? Since childhood, they have trained you to equate peace with laziness, told you that stillness is waste, that joy must be earned. But today, this video is going to break this illusion. So you learn to chase validation like oxygen and call the suffocation growth. But what if you stopped? What if doing nothing was never failure but rebellion? Imagine realizing that the world's noise isn't proof you're alive, but a proof you're still asleep. Watch closely till the end, because the final truth might be the one that finally sets you free. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Have you noticed how exhaustion has become your identity? How the weight on your shoulders feel like proof that you matter? You wake up already tense, already behind, as if peace means you're not trying hard enough. You check your phone 147 times a day, not because you need to, but because being busy feels safer than being present. That's not productivity. That's anxiety with a to-do list. Somewhere along the way, you learn that pressure equals purpose. That anxiety is ambition. But what if that's the greatest lie you were ever told? You've mistaken tension for significance. You think meaning hides at the end of struggle, but Nietzsche would call this slave morality, the worship of duty over desire, of obedience over becoming. You serve invisible masters, deadlines, validation, fear, and you call it purpose. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists." And isn't that what you've done? You resist stillness, and so it hunts you. You resist silence, and so your mind grows louder. You've turned your own nervous system into a battlefield, and you call the chaos growth. But your tension isn't a sign of depth. It's a symptom of disconnection from the rhythm that made you human. You treat life like a pilgrimage to a distant goal, a career, a reputation, a name remembered. But the meaning was never at the end. The meaning was in the music itself. And you've been so obsessed with reaching the final chord that you've stopped hearing the symphony. Nietzsche wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But your why was never yours, was it? It was handed to you by a world that profits from your exhaustion. So you grind harder, hoping suffering will make you sacred. But all it makes you is nothing but tired. Look at yourself, breathing shallow, living faster, waiting for permission to rest. What if you stopped? Not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. Because maybe peace is not the opposite of progress. Maybe peace is what progress was supposed to feel like. You mistake movement for meaning, but stillness might be the only place truth ever lived. To let go is not to give up. It is to finally return to rhythm. To realize that existence is not a staircase to climb, but a song to dance to, one breath at a time. But wait, knowing you're in a cult doesn't mean you know how to leave. So ask yourself, if the music ended tonight, would you say you truly heard it or just hurried through the notes? maybe meaning was never something to find, only something to stop fleeing from the part you buried, the part that still wanted to laugh. You used to laugh easily. Now every failure feels fatal. Every mistake becomes humiliation. You've mistaken humor for carelessness. You've convinced yourself that seriousness means depth, that joy makes you naive. But tell me, when did you decide that play was beneath you? That wonder was weakness? That the child in you had to die for the adult to survive? Jung said, "That which you most need will be found where you least want to look." And you've spent years looking everywhere but inside. Because inside lives the self you've outlawed. Foolish, spontaneous, alive. You called it inappropriate, unprofessional, irresponsible. So you buried it under discipline, productivity, and image. But the grave never holds what it hides. And that repressed joy doesn't disappear. It festers. It becomes the anxiety you can't name, the irritability with no cause, the numbness that visits you at 3 a.m. You keep trying to fix the symptoms, but the illness is the rejection of your own aliveness. Nietzsche said, "Maturity is to have regained the seriousness one had as a child at play." You were never meant to perform life. You were meant to play with it. The opposite of seriousness isn't frivolity, it's freedom. To laugh at your own absurdity is not to be shallow. It's to remember that the universe itself is playful. Waves dancing on the shore, stars burning for no reason at all. Jung wrote that the shadow contains not just weakness, but healthy instinctivity. The raw vitality you exiled when you decided to be good. That vitality is trapped in what you've rejected. And when you don't make the inner situation conscious, the world must act out the conflict torn into opposing halves. The war isn't out there, it's in you, between who you think you should be and who you actually are. But losing play isn't the worst part. Jung said the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, but that's the only way home. You cannot heal what you refuse to see. You cannot dance if you keep hiding from the rhythm. So ask yourself, what part of you did you bury just to be taken seriously? And when will you finally let it breathe again? Because what comes next is what you never saw coming. You buried your playfulness to survive. Nietzsche dug it back up to live. He understood something most people never grasp, that laughter was not born from joy, but from agony. Are you ready? Because thing might sting. He wrote, "Perhaps I know best why it is man alone who laughs. He alone suffers so deeply that he had to invent laughter." Think about that. Laughter not as escape, but as rebellion, as proof that suffering never had the final word. You take life like a soldier takes a battlefield every day, a war to be won, every mistake an enemy to kill. But Nietzsche saw the highest strength in those who could still dance despite the wound. Because life is not to survive, but to live. The tragedy is you're counting steps instead of feeling the rhythm. You've confused progress with presence. The universe isn't marching anywhere. It's moving beautifully in place. Nietzsche said in Zarathustra that laughter is a sign of recovery from excessive seriousness. He would rank philosophers by their capacity for golden laughter. And he declared that if gods ever philosophized, they would laugh at everything we take too seriously. Because to laugh at life is not to mock it. It's to meet it as an equal. It's to stare directly at suffering and smile without flinching. That's not apathy. That's mastery and maturity. Watch a child playing. They are utterly absorbed, completely committed, serious without heaviness. They take their game seriously, not themselves. That's the secret adults forget you can give your all without being crushed by it. Nietzsche called it amor fati, love of fate, his formula for greatness. To want nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not for all eternity. Not merely to bear what's necessary, but to love it. Nietzsche asked, what if a demon told you that this life, every joy, every pain, every breath must be lived again and again, infinitely, exactly as it is? Would you curse the demon, or would you say yes? Because to laugh at life is to say yes. To dance in the storm is to say yes. To die still smiling, that is the highest affirmation. But the real war is, you treat life like a problem to be solved, never a song to be heard. You measure, plan, control. You wake up already calculating how to survive the day. Every moment is optimized, but none are lived. You worship control because you fear chaos. You fear what cannot be predicted and what refuses to fit your schedule. But life was never meant to be controlled. It was meant to be moved through. Like music, like laughter, like breath. Nietzsche wrote, "One must have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star." You've mistaken chaos for danger, but it's the soil of all creation. Effortless action, flowing without forcing, doing without doing. And this is where science quietly agrees. Your body knows what your mind has forgotten. Laughter resets your nervous system, reduces cortisol, epinephrine, and growth hormone, reversing the chemistry of fear. In depression, where serotonin and dopamine fade, laughter reawakens them. It heals through rhythm, through breath, through sound. Studies found humor lowers anxiety more effectively than exercise. Humor eases depression faster than most interventions. We are 30 times more likely to laugh with others than alone. Because laughter is never an entertainment, but an evolution's way of reminding you, you belong. Laughter connects you beyond words, a shared pulse that predates language. You craved this connection, but you've turned even joy into work. You schedule laughter into breaks. You optimize it with productivity podcasts. You've forgotten how to laugh at yourself, how to let go long enough to be moved by life instead of managing it. Nietzsche wrote, "Maturity is to have regained the seriousness one had as a child at play. So play, flow, laugh. Stop trying to hold the river. Be the river. Let life move through you, and you'll find it was never chaos you feared, but as freedom." And so you built a cage out of calendars. You wake up to a checklist, not a sunrise. Even your rest has become routine. You work to rest and rest to work. You've turned life into a job. Every breath feels like it needs a reason. Every joy, a justification. You become efficient, yet empty. In ancient Greece, they understood something we've forgotten. Two gods, two forces. Apollo, the god of light, reason, order, control. Dionysus, the god of chaos, ecstasy, unity, wildness. Nietzsche said they were not enemies, but partners. Two halves of the same divine heartbeat. Apollo gives form, Dionysus gives life. Without one, the other collapses. Without Apollo, the world dissolves into madness. Without Dionysus, it hardens into stone. The Greeks found balance, a sacred tension that made beauty possible. But somewhere along the way, we broke the pact. Since Socrates, Western civilization has worshipped Apollo. We exiled Dionysus. We traded wildness for logic, instinct for intellect, music for measurement. Now you count steps instead of feeling the rhythm. You analyze emotions instead of living them. You've turned the dance into an audit because you thought chaos was dangerous. But it's creation, it's movement, it's the pulse beneath your plans. Jung said that what you repress becomes your fate, and you've repressed the Dionysian inside you, the part that laughs too loudly, loves too deeply, lives too freely. You've buried the instinct that makes you human. That's why you feel split, torn between discipline and desire, reason and release. Because you are both. You were always both. The task isn't to choose between them, it's to let them live again. To let structure meet surrender. To let logic hold hands with chaos. The Greeks looked into the abyss and said yes to life anyway. Can you? Can you stop measuring the music long enough to feel it? And this is the trap that next chapter reveals. Because only when Apollo and Dionysus meet does the soul come alive. But what happens when the soul awakens and still can't find its purpose? Can you stop measuring the music long enough to feel it? Because here's the secret they never tell you. There is no score, no hidden melody written somewhere in the stars. You keep searching for purpose like it's buried treasure, as if one day you'll stumble upon a sign that says, "This is what you were meant to do." But it never comes, does it? You mistake confusion for failure, but it's not failure, it's freedom. You weren't born with meaning waiting inside you. You were thrown into the world unfinished, undefined, and told to invent yourself from scratch. That's why it hurts so much. Freedom isn't comfortable, it's terrifying. Sartre called it a curse. We are condemned to be free. Condemned because we cannot escape choice. Free because every choice creates a world. This is not a thought but a mirror. You keep waiting for permission, for a sign that your path is the right one. But meaning doesn't arrive. You make it. Nietzsche saw the truth. He imagined a demon whispering, "You must live this exact life again and again infinitely. Every pain, every joy, every mistake." Would you curse him or would you say yes? Now pause for a moment and ask yourself, why does it feel so real? You fear looking foolish? You hold back your song, your art, your truth because you're afraid of being laughed at. But everyone is acting. The doctor, the saint, the philosopher. The problem begins when you forget it's a performance. Nietzsche's Übermensch laughs at judgment because he knows it's all theater. He doesn't avoid foolishness, he performs it consciously. That's what freedom looks like. To dance without needing applause. To live without waiting for meaning to appear. Because the meaning isn't behind the curtain, it isn't waiting in the distance. The meaning is the act itself. You are not searching for the show. You are the show, and it's already begun. But somewhere between becoming and pretending you forgot your lines. You confuse progress with presence. You move through days like battles to win, not rhythms to feel. You grind, endure, conquer. But you've forgotten how to simply be. The tragedy is you're counting steps instead of feeling the rhythm. The universe isn't marching anywhere. It's moving beautifully in place, and you are too afraid to miss the next cue. Keep rushing past the music. You worship control and fear chaos. You plan, schedule, calculate, trying to hold life in your fist. But life, like water, slips through grasping hands. Creation doesn't come from control. It comes from surrender. You've turned existence into performance. You wake to a checklist, not a sunrise. Even rest feels rehearsed. You've become efficient but hollow. Perfectly timed, yet profoundly detached. You fear looking foolish. You hold back your song, your art, your truth because you're terrified of laughter. The problem begins when you forget you're playing a role. The actor becomes the mask, and the game becomes a prison. But chaos isn't the enemy you think it is. Nietzsche warned, "The one who kills their chaos also kills their light." But you've exiled your chaos, you've mistaken your wildness for shame, and now your star flickers waiting for permission to burn. You take pain too personally. You think your suffering is a cosmic error and a proof that life is unfair. But Nietzsche knew pain is never punishment, but a participation when he said, "To live is to suffer, to survive is to find some meaning in the suffering." You are a wave in motion. Waves rise, crash, reform. A wave does not fear the shore it belongs to it. Stop trying to avoid the fall. Fall beautifully. Fall consciously. That's how pain becomes poetry. You mistake stress for importance. You think the weight proves your worth. But Nietzsche thinks opposite. He who cannot command himself will be commanded. You've obeyed every expectation except your own soul's rhythm. Jung wrote that the soul doesn't want perfection, but only wholeness. And wholeness includes both your light and your madness, both your laughter and your collapse. Maybe the truth isn't to escape the play, but to remember you were always the playwright. Because freedom was never about leaving the stage, it was about performing consciously, to fall without flinching, to sing without shame, to live without needing an audience. You are not watching the show. You are the movement, the music, the moment. And the curtain has never fallen. Because the twist is not ahead, you are already in it. But you keep searching for your script. You think meaning must be found, not created, as if purpose hides somewhere, buried in a book, a career, a lover, a plan. You chase it endlessly, mistaking the chase for progress. Now comes the part no one wants to admit. Meaning isn't hiding at the end of life's maze. It's blooming in every step you take inside it. It's not discovered, it's chosen. Nietzsche said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But that why isn't given to you. You forge it in fire. You carve it from chaos. You invent it from nothing, and that is your divinity. You don't need more discipline. You need less rigidity. You don't need more control. You need more surrender. You've mistaken order for peace, control for strength. But true power is the courage to flow with what you cannot command. Start small. Start now. Breathe without managing the breath. Move without measuring the step. Jung taught, no progress or growth is possible until the shadow is adequately confronted. Look there, at what you bury to appear perfect. The playfulness, the foolishness, the instinct to laugh for no reason. That is never weakness, but aliveness. The shadow doesn't just hide flaws, it hides forgotten freedoms, the ability to dance without choreography, to create without needing an audience, to love without an agenda. Laugh at yourself, not to mock, but to remember you are still here. Laughter reconnects you to being. It dissolves the illusion of control. Let your body remember what your mind forgot. Joy is proof of life. Stop searching for the cosmic reason behind your heartbeat. There isn't one. And that's not despair, but delight. Because when the universe offers no script, you are free to write your own. Nietzsche whispered, "Become who you are." Meaning was never behind the show. The meaning is the show. And you are the show. The music is playing. It has always been playing. Will you keep analyzing the rhythm, or will you finally dance? This is your moment, this breath, this life. Say yes and watch the world come alive again.